Happy Sunday, everybody. Uh, I'm back. It's been a couple weeks. Been a little crazy in my life, so I had to get some stuff caught up and get caught up on some stuff. So I'm not gonna have a long video today. I just wanted to go over a couple things that are kind of unique, not common pressing things. As always, I highly recommend the book, Captain Mike Sorensen. Great book. All of his books are really good, so highly recommend them. So what we're going to talk about today is a couple specific. Let me grab my gloves. A couple specific types of things that you might see. These aren't common. They are out there, but it's not common things that you're going to have to deal with. But you will occasionally if you press a lot. So I thought, what a better way to start my return from my little hiatus than going over a couple of those not so common things we're going to see. So the first one we're going to start with is this book right here. So nothing crazy, just looks like Uncanny X-Men 206, which it is. It actually is also signed by John Romita Jr. on the first page right there. So this is a book that I want to get certified. I know that's his signature. I want to send it in, get it CG Street certified. The signature isn't a big deal from the pressing standpoint, but this actually has a Mark Jewelers insert. So what Mark Jewelers inserts were exactly what it says. It's a jewelry insert. There's a Diamond Jewelers inserts. There's Mark Jewelers inserts. A lot of these were released at military bases. I think it had to do with, definitely on the West Coast, but military bases as well, because I guess they assume guys in the military were wanting to buy jewelry for their ladies back home. I'm not really sure. But I know a lot of these have on the cover, they'll have a red star like stamped on the cover. And those are definitely military based copies. But what's unique to this is this little strip right here along the edge. You can see where it says for your privacy, fold here, moisten edges, seal, shut, and mail. So what this is intended to be done is you would write down your order here. You would fold this over and you would mail it just to here like that. So what this is on this edge, it's very similar to like an envelope. You lick it, flip it, and it's going to stick. And it's going to it's going to get heated up. It's going to get wet. So moisture is not something you don't want to moisturize these books because the moisture will release these. And it's not, I was wrong. If actually you tear it off and it folds this way. So you'll fold it over here. Obviously, I don't think Mark Jewelers is still in business. If they are, I don't know that these prices are valid anymore. So no one's going to be mailing it in. I've never seen a book that has a Mark Jewelers insert where the actual insert was mailed in. So I don't know how many sets of jewelry they actually sold from these, but they did have them for a while. So a lot of the pressing on this is going to be very standard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my plate. So when I press, I always put books on plates. It helps spread the heat out. So these are my plates, just steel plates. Notice I write outside on it because I've smoothed the insides of them. I've kind of scuffed them, made them smoother with just some sandpaper, some steel sandpaper or steel wool. And this is what I press on. So I'm going to work my stacking layers. First layer I use is always cardstock or a backing board. Backing boards are really the easiest, cheapest. You usually have a bunch of them laying around. The other thing that we need, and I'll show you what I use, is silicone release paper, SRP. This is the kind I use. You can pick it up on Amazon. They're pre-cut. They're nice. It's just a piece of silicone release paper. There's two sides to these, so you got to be careful. Make sure you use the right side. There's a shiny side. You can see it's real nice and shiny. And then a matte side that's not as shiny. So that's going to go down. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to reverse do my stacking layer. So first layer I always put on the inside is 65-pound cardstock. So just a piece of 65-pound cardstock. Put it nice and tight against that. And then Your centerfold on these, on the centerfold, you always put another board. I tend to like to use halfbacks just because I can reuse them. They're a lot more rigid, but for this, we're going to just use a backing board, magazine size backing board. But what we have to do here is a little bit different. Because of that sticky edge, we want to put a piece of silicone paper down on top of it. And what that's going to do is when this heats up, it's going to keep that from getting tacky. Again, no moisture on this book. Moisture will activate that, and when you pull it out of the press, it'll be stuck to this page. So kind of similar to the back, you just push it in as tight as you can. Doesn't matter which side this goes, this way or this way. I like to use the glossy side facing the paper, just because sometimes you'll get a little bit of ink transfer on the matte side of that. So we'll just put that in there and then basically close it shut. Make sure it's nice and snug. And then one more piece of 65-pound stock. We'll put that right in the first page. Now, I always do a little tap just to make sure they're all nice and down as far as they can go. I'm dropping it nice and square. A lot of people get nervous, but I'm not doing anything crazy. So you can see they're all kind of uniform. I'm going to put it in there like that. Keep it, make sure that my cover is inside the bottom two stacking layers. And then on the top, just another SRP paper. And then my last backing board. And then when it goes into the press, I'll put this last stage, make sure it says outside on it because that's my outside. I'll go like that. And then this will press down nice and firm. That SRP in the center will keep that strip of I don't know what it's called. the strip of, I guess it's envelope glue. I don't know what you call it, but it'll keep that from activating and sticking to your inside pages. Again, I can't stress enough. Don't use moisture. Don't put this in a moisture tank. Don't use a hot shot moisture. You can maybe tap the cover, but be careful because if you get any moisture on that little strip we showed, it's gonna stick, and that's bad. You're kind of, once you've done that, you're kind of screwed. Like I said, this, if you look, you can kind of, I doubt you can see it, but it's this little strip here and this little strip here, and when you fold it, they stick. Again, just like an envelope. So that's basically it for a Mark Jewelers insert. They press it just like any other book. The pages, these are usually the same like thickness as a normal page of a comic book. So it's not anything beyond that. It's just basic. Just that strip's the one thing to worry about. So that's that for the Mark Jewelers. Next one, we're going to go over another insert, which is really, it's a short window of time. I think it's like 2012 to like 2016 or something, and it'll say that on the cover. The bonus edition, digital edition, and if you open the book up, and I've already got it pre-packed, is this little sticker. This is actually a sticker. You peel this off, there's this little serial code underneath it. CGC and CBCS kind of handle this differently. Another one, if this is removed, a 9.8 book at CBCS with this removed will get a 9.8 maximum. CGC doesn't deduct for this being removed, but they do note it on the label that the digital insert has been removed. Again, you'll see some of those that have them removed. You'll see some that don't. Not a whole lot special you need to do here other than right on this page. You want to do your normal stacking layers everywhere else, but then you want a 65-pound cardstock on this page here, and you want to lower your heat. I go about 10 degrees lower on this. I typically press books around 150, 153, somewhere in that range. When I see these inserts, I like to stay around 140. It's well into the book. This is an oversized book, but it's, I don't know, 10 pages from the back cover and 20 pages in. So the chance of that getting hot enough to detach is very unlikely. Plus, it's going to be pressed in the middle here, so even if it gets hot and that glue becomes a little bit liquefied or moistened, it's still going to stay attached because once it cools down, it'll just re-stick to the cover. Again, you're not going to see a lot of these. It's a very short window of time. I think it was like a 6-year span that Marvel did them. There's a few different types. DC had a couple, and a couple of the other manufacturers had different styles and different runs. But really, the only difference, like I said, everything else stacking layers is the same as anything. In this stacking layer I showed with the cardstock SRP, that's not the only way to do this. I also do a press where I just use one sheet of copy paper and then the book. I usually use SRP on newer books because of the higher gloss. On older books, I usually use the thin, just 20-pound copy paper between the cover and the plate. And the reason is the gloss, when it gets heated up, it can become a slight bit tacky. Hey, what's up, Berdazzle? It can become a slight bit tacky. So if I don't use the SRP, I always worry about color transfer and color coming off. So on the Silver Age and some of the early bronze, it's a lot not as shiny of a cover, so just regular paper it usually does fine. It also helps transfer that heat through the book a little better because you have less to go between the plate and the book and the covers. Keep in mind when this is pressing and there's the press is on top here like this, the heat is only coming from the top. So with the plates, what the plates do is they help spread the heat out evenly, but they also help transfer some to the bottom plate, then heat up the bottom of the book as well. I tend to preheat both of my plates so that I'll close the press nice and tight, heat it up to the temperature. Both the plates get a lot of heat, then I put the book in. There's 1,000 different ways to press books, so don't stress. Do what works best for you. There's, like I said, this is kind of the starter way. The backing board SRP book. Something between your cover and your first page, centerfold board, and reverse it on the outside on the other side. That's kind of the standard entry. This is how you press a book. The other ways that I do it they're not more advanced. They're just once you get a little more comfortable, it's a little bit easier to take some different chances, try some different things, and not be worried. So this is, again, pretty simple process for the insert. The last one is a tough one. I struggle with these. I don't struggle with them. I just always get nervous when I do them. So I wanted to go through it because I think it's worth going over. So it's a gatefold cover. I'm sure everyone's familiar with this book. This one's actually signed by Scott Williamson. Just using it as an example. So it's a gatefold. So what it has is this. And then on the back, it has the same thing again. So most common thing that happens when you press these books, if you don't do it a specific way, is right inside here, you get a line from that inside cover. And where you press it, it makes a crease right in the center. So what you actually do with this, and again, let's just assume we're doing this the basic way. We got our cardstock and then our SRP. And then everything else is very much the same, except for you unfold the gatefolds. So we're going to find the center. Now you can see the center with the staples. We're going to put our backing board in there. And then this is where it just gets tougher. So we're going to flip both of these out. So we're going to have that book sitting entire gatefold out on both sides. So we have the cover. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that 65-pound cardstock and I'm going to put one there in the back. I'm going to close it. Make sure my center fold piece is in there nice and tight. And I'm going to take another 65-pound cardstock. And I'm going to put it in the front cover. And then we're going to close it. Now this one is a little bit trickier in that you're going to take this book, you're going to center it on your SRP backing board setup. So you're going to take it and set it like that. And then you're actually going to press this. This is going to press flat. The crease from the gatefold. And we're going to do the top just like the same as any other book. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to scoot this close to the edge. So we're just going to slide that over a little bit. I still want to make sure the main part of the cover is inside of the plate. And I'm going to put the top plate on this. And again, I know this is going to hang out. So when I put this in my press, this is going to like just hang out. So I do tend to use a little less heat. I try and position this as far as I can in the front. Let me put this in the press and then I'll move the camera and show you what it looks like in the press. And again, you're going to press that crease flat. That's okay. You can easily recrease it once it comes out of the press. It's not like it's flattened out forever. It's got it's naturally bends on that spot again now because that's where it had been for a long time. So I'm not going to heat this up. I'm just going to close the press and kind of show you what it looks like inside the press. So it's in the press now. And I'm going to take the camera and kind of move you around here. See all my mess? And you can see it's just hanging out of the press now. And that's okay. Like I said, it's not going to hurt it. The heat's coming from the top. It's falling away from the top. So the edge of this isn't going to get hot. But that's why we pulled it out as far as we could. That's why we keep it as close to the front as we can to minimize the heat that's on the cover that's not protected. I've seen some people use where they put a piece of SRP that hangs over. I don't have a problem with that. The thing is, what I don't want to do is overlap and have an extra, where two pieces of SRP overlap and then that crease could come in through the SRP. But this tends to work really good for me. And then once it's done, you would just take it out like normal. I'll sit this back down. We'll move back over. And then I'll show you kind of once you take it out. Again, it's very simple. You just have to be cautious. So when you take it out, you just pull it out of there. Again, you'll take all this off, and then this crease will just recrease easily right back on there. It'll look a little puffy, so what you'll want to do is put it down and then kind of lightly just rub it out so that you flatten it out, because it gets I don't know, it like poofs up a little bit on the edge. I don't know why that is. But yeah, it will fold back very easily. No big deal. And then you're good to go. You should be, if you had a good press, you'll be able to submit just from that. And that's kind of the three of the more common things that you'll see when it comes to like not standard stuff. The standard stuff is just a book. This stuff is the more, Mark Jewelers only ran for, 12 or 14 years, and it's mainly, I want to say like mid 70s to like mid 80s, maybe sometime in there. You won't see any after the mid 80s. You won't see any like in the early 70s or late 60s. And again, there's some books in the 90s that actually had inserts that were very similar to Mark Jewelers that were a thick cardstock insert. Those are a little tough to press too. But again, that's where you want to just manage your heat because they are glossy. You heat them up too much, they could become a little bit tacky. And you could have other issues. So again, that's kind of all I wanted to go through today. I wasn't planning on doing a long one. Like I said, I haven't been out in the last couple of weeks. Been super busy with kids and work and everything else going on. But I'm still here. I'm still pressing every day. I don't know if you saw when I moved the camera, there's a stack of books on the floor, about 50 or 60 books that are in my stack to be pressed, which keeps me busy. I'm going to be on I think Wednesday this coming week, the 24th, I think. Is that right? Yeah, 24th Wednesday, I'll be on with Big Nasty, geeking out. I think we're going to geek out on some Star Wars. So, again, hopefully I'll have some more content coming out regularly. Minimally, I'll be cleaning on Sundays again. I'm a football fan, and my Bengals are basically done for the season with Burrow out. So I got nothing to do but clean comic books. So hopefully this was helpful and you guys learned something. If you have any questions, you hit me up in the comments. I'll be more than happy to give you my opinion. Again, I'm not an expert, so there may be other ways. These are just the ways I do it. Again, there's no wrong way. If it works for you, it works. So that's it for now, guys. Hope you guys have a great Sunday. Hopefully you're starting to enjoy this a little bit more fall-like weather. And I'll see you guys next time, and collect what you love and have a great day.